Yes, friends. In this video, with using of some different functionality, how to copy and paste your data with using of macro. Yes, advanced filter with macro we will remaining, but in this video we will have a discuss with the particular data with the macro. So we will use this particular data with the macro, and we can easily use this data with macro on the in this functionality. So now we have a do this functionality. On the basis of this functionality we will check the different functionality. Here is our data. We cannot use this data, we can use this different data. For example, here is our username and here is our password. For example, write down the username is ABC, password is ABC. Now what I want here, we can want here is a username and here is a password, right? Now what can we want? uh, Whatever I'm writing here, and press the submit button. At that time all the data we will go for the next sheet, next data. So all the data we can see this data and we can watch this data. We can simply copy this data, paste this data and delete here this data. One type of, we want to create a username and password user id form. So we want to create a user id form. On the basis of this one we want to create a particular data. If I want to create a particular data, on this basis we want to create a file. Now username and password, it is a copy and paste here. For example, first record macro, recording macro. Here macro name is macro number 1. We want not shortcut key, we want only for this macro. Okay, this button, then copy data here and paste data here and transpose this value, right? And the cursor in the next position. Then go for this data, delete this data, cursor is in first position. Now what can I do? Copy the data, paste the data, cursor in the next position. Now what I want to store the data in one type of database. So if the data is coming from the database, so we want to submit all the data, then press on submit button. So all the data is submitted to the next macro, next line. So we want to store this data from the database. So make sure that we want to use this data from the database. So we want to use this. Now we will close this macro, insert. We want to use the shape, right click, assign macro, macro number 1. Here we will write down submit button. Here I am write down submit button. Now what I want, whatever I'm writing here, press the submit button. Here the data it will be stored. It's a one type of, you can say that this is a login form. So whenever you are logging this form, everyone data is stored in your file. So you can use this file easily and you can done with your Excel file. But the next line, whenever data is storing in the next line is problematic, because macro is stored with the cursor position data. So every time it will be go for the next line. For example, I am write down here, right, cursor in first position, then submit this value. Now you can see here, this is a perfect data is coming from this data. For next data, if I'm writing here and m, right? Then if you I'm clicking city center username and you can see here, this is a replace the particular value. This is a disadvantage of the macro, because it will not going from the next line. If it is going from the next line, then this is an advantage of the macro. Right. If I'm saying that every time if I'm changing my cursor position, so it is easily work, but every time I'm changing my cursor positions, this is a very time consuming. If I'm submitting this data and check here, yes, this is working. Then after I'm going from the next line, next cursor, then also working. So every place I'm putting my cursor on the next position, same as it is here. One disadvantage is that every time our cursor in the first position, for example, if I'm writing here ZZ, if I'm writing here ZZ, then my cursor is here when we are submitting this data. Then you can see here ZZ and ZZ data is coming. Now and press QQ and QQ and press the cursor in last positions. Then copy data and delete. But every time press the cursor in next line, otherwise else overwrite of the data is a possibility from your side. Whenever the overwrite of this data, then we can use this overwrite of data. On the basis of overwrite of data, we can submit it this data on the this line. So this is a disadvantage of the macro. Now, this is called as copy and paste the data. Whenever I'm copy and paste the data, at that time, if I'm using this particular data on the basis of copy paste data, this is called as a user form. We were to create our own user form on the basis of this line, so we have to clear this line, and we want to create a particular line. If you want to create some user form, some database, one type of create a database in Excel, we want to store the data in Excel, then we want to store this database. This is called as particular data with the store on this particular value. If you want to store this data now, so this is a disadvantage for this macro. So what is the solution of this? If you want to use your visual basics, otherwise else you will be use the relative reference macro. If you are using the relative reference macro, so at that time it will be working from your side and it will work the properly. So at that time you are using the relative reference macro, otherwise else all the data is replaced with the another data. So you can say that only for updated data you want to store the updated data in this database, then definitely you can use this. You can see here only for updated data is using from your side. Then if you are using this value and if you are using this value and enter, this is a updated, here is updated data is Ziva, right? Whenever I'm using QQQ and QQQ, this is a submitted your data, then this is go for the next line. Now it will not go for the next line every time the data is stored on the first line also. So now my cursor is here, you can see copy and paste and deleted this data. This is replaced with the old data, this is newer data. So next one by one line data, it will be not store your data. This is a basically disadvantage. View side by side. This is a side by side your profile will be shown. So you can show this file and this file also. This file is not usable and you have don't save this file, then this is a don't save this file. If you want to use this file, then you can open this file, go for the resign command. This is a, if it is a macro enable file, macro will be stored. If it is a not a macro enable file, macro it's a not stored in here. command. So this is a disadvantage, basically line by line. Whenever you are storing the data for your line by line, this is a basically disadvantage. So make sure that all the data, if it is a line by line storage, then you will be use the relative reference macro. If you are not using relative reference macro, you are not storing the data particular line by line. So this is a main disadvantage of the macro file. First, save as. This is Excel workbook. We want to store the macro enable workbook. Save this file. Now you can see here file, options, customize ribbons. You can add your own ribbons also. Quick access toolbar, we will use the quick access toolbar. And macro tab, you can see here no one macro is available here. We want to create a some basic macro here. View, record macro, macro number 2, and stop recording. Right? File, options, proofing, quick access toolbar or customize ribbons. Macro number 2, add and OK. Here you can see here macro number 2 is available. Now whenever I'm click the macro number 2, it will be click on this macro, and if I'm clicking this macro, you can use this macro. So this macro number 2, you can use this. Here is a quick access toolbar. You can create your own macro, own command also. So you have not to create a button as well as the shortcut key, because shortcut key is very difficult to remember. Yes. So we have want to create some quick access toolbar command. So if I'm using the quick access toolbar, we can do with the work with this functionality easily. So we can do the macro in this line. So we have used the quick access toolbar command. Now you can check here file save as macro enable workbook is available or not. Yes, this is macro enable workbook. Macro enable workbook, this is a different workbook. You can see that the different functionality with using of different function. Now file, options, customize ribbons. We want to add our own ribbons, new tab, rename. If I'm saying that our tab name is, for example, ABC, if I'm adding macro here, so you can see here ABC tabs is available, macro number 2 is available. So we want to create our own tab with using of macro we want to create. If it is a coding macro, if it is a recording macro, all the option is available. This is totally depends on your side. So we want to create our own macro, otherwise else create a coding macro. If I'm right click here and remove this tab, we can remove this. We can only remove the custom tab. Any other tab we cannot remove this. So Nidisha, we want to remove this tab. ADFIR, remove this tab. Background removal. So this all are the tab. We want to remove this tab. On the basis of this one, we want to remove this tab. If you want to remove this tab, we want to add this home, insert page layout, formula data, review, view, developer, and K-tools. This all are the option. We want to remove this tab. K-tools, this is a different functionality. We have a total lots of macro. We want to use this macro. On the basis of this macro, we want to use the any functionality. We want to create any functionality. So make sure that we want to use this functionality. On the basis of this functionality, we want to create many different many different functionality. On the basis of this value, we want to use this. We want to print any page at that time. if you want to print any page, you have to print the particular functionality. So we want to, if you are, we want to do this functionality on this basis of this functionality, we want to create another functionality also. uh, for example, K-tool have a different macro available for you, and different functionality. You can use this functionality. Now we want to do the particular data. For example, we will not use the direct K-tool functionality, but this is all at the micro. If you want to use this functionality, we want this. Now you can use this macro with using of shortcut key command. You can use this. Yes, if I'm opening the different file, then this macro is working or not. This macro is also working. You can see here. This is different Excel file. If I'm opening the new file, for example, so if I'm using this macro, so you can use this macro with open the different, open this macro. So we will use this particular file. On this basis, we want to create a different file, different format. So we want to create this for easily do this functionality. This is called as different functionality with different layout. We want to use this. Now here we want to create this functionality. If I'm creating, for example, if I'm creating the particular data, for example, hyperlink, one type of create a hyperlink. Of hyperlink from example, we want to create a different sheet example. If I am giving the hyperlink of the pivot table, pivot chart, macro also. If I'm click here, then we want to jump on this particular data. So we want to create a particular data on the particular file. So if you want to create this,
तो दिख रहा है, आप एक बार बंद करके फिर से चालू करो, मेरे भी चल रहा
Hmm? Now I want to create this macro also. We want to create this pivot table also. We want to check this particular reference from this file. So we have to clear this file. If I am using this file on the basis of, for example, the functionality, view, record macro, macro number 3, if I am using a particular functionality, for example, some if range criteria greater than 400 and some range, this is a sum range same as it is your sum range. Now stop recording. If same criteria we will using here, then insert shape, right click, assign macro, macro 3, and okay. You can see here there is a total is greater than 400. Here is a 400 value 9, this total value and total value. If here we will use the summing functionality, here we will use the summing functionality. If here we will use the summing functionality, this is 0. This is almost right value because no one value is greater than particular functionality. So this is very simple to do when we use the summing functionality with using of this functionality. So we want to use this functionality. On this basis of this functionality, we can directly use this functionality on the particular data, particular file. So we want to use this file, and we want, if you want to use this file on the basis of this one, we want to do the particular data, particular file. Now you can use the countif also, sumif s also, all the Excel data you can use this functionality. But make sure that your range is not changed. If you are changing your range, then you cannot do with anything. So make sure that if your range is not changeable, then you can use this functionality. If your range is static, then you can do any of this functionality. If I am using here also, now I am putting the same functionality in a different Excel file, then it will be working or not, we will check here also. Assign macro, macro number 3, okay. And this one functionality is applicable or not. This one is not applicable, but here we will write down any values greater than this value. Then record this macro, it will be not working this macro because range is different on this file. So value is 0. Now you can see here, whenever the range of data is exactly matched at that time, it will be only working. Otherwise else it will be not in a working place. So make sure that if you are using this file, on the basis of this file we want to use the particular data, particular file. If you want to use this particular data with particular file, we want to use the particular options. So make sure that you want to use this option, and on the basis of this option we want data on this file. Now if you want to use this file, if you want to use this file on the basis of this one, we want to create this file, then we don't want to use this format. So make sure that if all your range is with your data, with your file, on the basis of this one, we want to create a different range with different file format. So in one sheet range, if your data is same, then you can use this macro. For example, if I'm using here, then if you want to insert one shape, for example, right click, assign the macro, macro 3, and OK. Then we want to use this value. Why we want to use this value? I899 to I917. It will be used on this range value. If I'm using this value to this value, we want to use this value. So make sure that we want to use this value. On the basis of this one, if the range of data is same, then you can put this value here. If the range of data is changed, then the put of this value will be also changed. So make sure that everyone places, if the range is changed, you want to use this functionality. So if your range of data, for example, here is our range of data is 500, this is data format, 700, 7,000, 5,000. Now I'm using this functionality here, this value will be 0 because our date of range it will be changed. If our date of range it will be changed, then we will use the different functionality on different point. So our range of data is same as it is, then you can use this functionality in different range of this functionality. So make sure that everyone place functionality is not changeable. So we want to easily use this functionality on the easy basis of functionality. On the easy basis of this functionality is mean that our data cannot be changed, our range is not changed, then we can put the any of this value of the any of this place. So make sure that we want to use this functionality in different place. Okay friends, thank you so much. We will discuss in the next micro and next functionality.